This is John Cressman with monkeyuncle.com, and this is a tutorial aimed at a very specific question on the GameSalad forums, and that is how to create a increasing spawn rate. We're going to call this variable spawner 001. And we're actually going to make this portrait because the gentleman who asked wanted things coming down from the top, so it's always better in portrait. Alright, so let's go into the scene. We're going to go into game. We're going to create an attribute. It's a real attribute because we want to be able to have fractional values, and we're going to call this spawn interval. And the reason we need to make it a game attribute is that we're going to be modifying it from several different actors. Let's go back home. Now let's create the actors. First one we're going to call spawner. Second one we're going to call enemy. Now we're going to create another actor, and we're just going to call this display 1. And in this display 1, all we're going to do is put in, well, we're going to use our little stealth thing here and make it invisible. So alpha equals 0. And then we're just going to display text. The text we're going to display is interval. We're going to use the double dots so we can concatenate, and the value we're going to concatenate is the spawn interval. And all this is going to do is it's going to allow us to display the spawn interval so we can see it. Right. So now let's go back to our scene. We're going to go ahead and place the display, and we're going to put it down here at the bottom. It doesn't really matter where you put it. Alright. Now let's go into enemy. Now this enemy is going to be created at the top of the screen. It's going to fall down. So the first thing you want to do is give it an accelerate behavior. And we're going to have it go down to the bottom of the screen, which is 270. Relative to scene, so it's always going to be heading down. The acceleration, we're going to just put 800. So this is immediately going to send it down. Now we need to create a rule. So an attribute enemy position Y. Remember, it's heading down the screen. We want to remove it when it's gotten to the bottom of the screen. So we're going to say, come down here, the enemy size height, but we're going to make that negative. So that means when it's completely off the screen, we're going to do this behavior, and that is destroy. Now we could actually, if this is a game, we could actually deduct a point or score, or just even end the game. But that's all we're going to do. Now the other thing we're going to do is just to make some, I don't know, better looking testing. We're going to create a attribute called random. We're going to change. I'm going to put that up here. We're going to change enemy random to function floor so that it rounds, and now function random, and we're going to do minimum of 1 and maximum of 5. And what that's going to do is it's going to create a random number. Now to use that function, what we're actually going to do is we're going to have a list of colors, so you could have as many colors as you want. And what we're going to do is we're going to create 5 rows and 2 columns. Actually, we're going to create 3 columns, sorry. And these are our RGB values. Blue, green. And these are just numbers 1 to 5. So we're going to just set these real basic. These just represent different colors, different combinations of red, blue, and green. So we have 5 different ones. That should be plenty. So let's go back to our actor, enemy. We've created a random number. Now we have to set the attribute. So we're going to do a change attribute. And we're going to change enemy color red to table cell value. The table is game colors. The row is going to be the random number we just generated. So there it is, random. And the column, in this case, red, was 1. Now we're going to duplicate that. We're going to duplicate it again. We're just going to change this. Enemy color blue and enemy color green, and green was column 3 and blue was column 2. So all this does is we create a random number and then we assign the value to the colors based on the table values. And when it gets off the screen, it disappears. Now, we're going to go ahead and save this. Variable spawner 001. Now we have to make the rule for the touch. So we're going to create a new rule. We're going to say when the actor receives a touch, and it's pressed, and the touch is inside the actor, so they've touched this actor, we want to do 2 things. We want to change game spawn interval to game spawn interval minus, and then however much you want it to decrease by. In this case, I'm going to say 0.1, so it's going to start at 1 second and it's going to decrease by 0.1 every time you touch it. Now one thing that you want to make sure you do, I just added a new rule, is since we're decreasing this, it can't go below 0 or it will stop spawning. So let's do game. I'm going to say if attribute game spawn interval is less than or equal to 0, then I'm just going to pull this down. We're going to set game interval to 0.1. That's going to be the fastest it spawns, is 1/10 of a second. After we make these changes, we no longer need this actor, so we're going to destroy it. Go ahead and file and save. And now with enemy, with spawner, what we're going to do is we're going to create an attribute, and this is going to be a real attribute because this is going to keep track of the time. I'm going to set it to spawn time, and the first thing we do when we create this is we're going to change attribute spawner spawn time to spawner time. So that's going to set the spawn time attribute to whatever the value of self time is. And now we're going to put an if statement or I should say we put a rule, and we say if attribute spawner spawn time is less than spawner time, so self time. So basically if we've passed this spawn interval, then what we're going to do is we're going to spawn a new actor, and that actor is going to be an enemy. We're going to leave it in front of actor. We're going to say relative to scene on both of these. Now we want it to spawn above, so in this case I'm just going to give it -100. Okay. And for position, I actually want it to be random, so we're going to use our same random type expression but as before, and that is floor random. And the minimum, I don't want it to go off the edge of the screen, so the minimum is going to be 100. I want a 100 pixel buffer. Actually, the 50 should be good. And then this is 320 is the width, so I'm going to put in 270. You can actually put an expression in there, that's fine, based on a variable width, but we're just going to put 270. So it's going to spawn randomly somewhere on the screen, horizontally, and vertically it's going to spawn above, and then of course it's going to fall below. Now that we've spawned that actor, we need to reset the timer. So once again, we're going to change attribute. I'm going to set spawner spawn time to spawner time plus game, and then the spawn interval. And of course, if they've hit the button, the spawn interval will have decreased and the new spawn interval will be in play. So now let's go ahead and place these in the scene and see what it looks like. Put initial scene. I'm going to take the spawner, I'm going to put it up here at the top, just a little hanging out so you can see it. And now I'm going to go ahead and file, save. I'm going to go and preview it. And right now, nothing happens. And that's because we haven't set our interval. So remember when I told you that if the interval is 0, it'll stop spawning? We want to come into this attribute and we're going to set the spawn interval, the initial one, to 1. Now we could do that with an actor, but we're just going to come in here and set it. So now we should be getting a spawn. And we're not. Alright, so let's see what happened. We go into spawner, we set it to self time. If it's less than that time, then we're going to spawn the actor and reset it. So instead of -100, let's put 100, and we'll see if it's spawning at all. So there, oh, and that's the problem right there, is that I am dyslexic. I really am, actually, and unfortunately I reversed my Y coordinates. We actually want this at the top of the screen, so what we're going to do is we're going to come in here in spawner, and this time we will put a formula, and because we want it at the top of the screen, we want, remember the numbers, the coordinates get higher the higher you go on the screen. So we're going to say display size height plus 100. So it's going to put it above the top of the screen. So now we should see that as I click, they're falling, and they're just falling way too fast. And there you have it. Variable spawn, it gets faster the more you go. Now let's just come in here once more and go into enemy. Now one thing you might want to do on the enemy is do a collide rule with other enemies. So if it collides with an enemy, we just want it to bounce a little. Now, because we don't want it to bounce a lot, we're going to go ahead and set the density to 0, friction to 0, and bounciness to 0.01. And now let's see what that looks like. Yeah, it's down to 1. And it stopped working. And I suspect that is because we've reduced the attribute probably too much, and it's not being caught because this is actually being set too many times. So the one thing we can do with that is come in here with spawn, add a new rule. Okay, and we're going to say if attribute spawn, actually no, let's do attribute game spawn interval. So if it's less than or equal to 0, or actually I should say if it's greater than 0, then we want to add whatever this value is, the spawn interval. If for some reason it's not, that means it's equal to 0, then we're going to say 0.1. And we'll see now if that does any better. It's getting faster, 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 faster. And no, it still goes much slower. So now let's come back into spawner. So spawn interval, what we might want to do here is actually change the spawn interval if it is less than 0. We're going to change spawn game spawn interval to 0.1. We're going to test it, getting quicker, much quicker. And now at some point it always seems to go down. So what we can do instead is change things up a little bit. So we're going to say if game attribute spawn interval is greater than 0.1, then we're going to set it to, actually let's do this. If it's greater than 0.2, then we're going to reduce it. Otherwise, we're going to set it. Actually, we're not going to set it at all. All right. So now it'll only reduce it if it's greater. And now it's going on forever. I can't even click fast enough to kill all of these. But as you can see, now it goes on forever and ever. So sometimes it's just a matter of where to apply the logic and how GameSalad interprets that logic. Alright, so I'm going to file, save this, and that's it for now. Check out our other tutorials on monkeyuncle.com.